Hello, my darling, and welcome to today's story time. Today we are reading Quest for Medusa's Head by James Baldwin. If you like what you hear, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And now on with our story time. The Magic Slippers. So Danae and her son stayed in the house of the kind man who had saved them from the sea. Years passed by, and Perseus grew up to be a tall young man, handsome and brave and strong. The king of the island, when he saw Danae, was so pleased with her beauty that he wanted her to become his wife. But he was a dark, cruel man, and she did not like him at all. So she told him she would not marry him. The king thought that Perseus was to blame for this, and that if he could find some excuse to send the young man on a far journey, he might force Danae to have him, whether she wished or not. One day, he called all of the young men of his country together and told them that he was soon to be wedded to the queen of a certain land beyond the sea. Would not each of them bring a present to be given to her father? For in those times it was the rule that when any man was about to be married, he must offer costly gifts to the father of the bride. "What kind of presents do you want?" asked the young men. "Horses," he answered, for he knew that Perseus had no horse. "Why don't you ask for something worth having?" said Perseus, for he was vexed at the way in which the king was treating him. "Why don't you ask for Medusa's head, for example?" "Well then, Medusa's head it shall be," cried the king. "These young men may give me horses, but you shall bring me Medusa's head." "I will bring it then," said Perseus, and he went away in anger, while his young friends laughed at him because of his foolish words. What was this Medusa's head which he had so rashly promised to bring? His mother had often told him about Medusa. Far, far away, on the very edge of the world, there lived three strange monsters, sisters, called Gorgons. They had the bodies and faces of women, but they had wings of gold and terrible claws of brass, and hair that was full of living serpents. They were so awful to look upon that no man could bear the sight of them, but whoever saw their face was turned to stone. Two of these monsters had charmed lives, with no weapon could ever do them harm. But the youngest, whose name was Medusa, might be killed, if indeed anyone could find her and give her the fatal stroke. When Perseus went away from the king's palace, he began to feel sorry that he had spoken so rashly. For how should he ever make his promise good and do the king's bidding? He did not know which way to go to find the Gorgons, and he had no weapon with which to slay the terrible Medusa. But at any rate, he would never show his face to the king again unless he could bring the head of terror with him. He went down to the shore and stood out over the sea towards Argos, his native land. And while he looked, the sun went down and the moon arose, and a soft wind came blowing from the west. The man looked like a prince, and there were wings on his cap and on his feet, and he carried a winged staff, around which two golden serpents were intertwined. He asked Perseus what was the matter, and the young man told him how the king had treated him, and all about the rash words which he had spoken. Then the lady spoke to him very kindly, and he noticed that, although she was not beautiful, she had the most wonderful gray eyes, and a stern but lovable face, and a queenly form. And she had told him not to fear, but to go out boldly in quest of the Gorgons, for she would help him obtain the terrible head of Medusa. But I have no ship, and how shall I go? Said Perseus. You shall go on my winged slippers, said the strange prince, and they will bear you over land and sea. Shall I go north, or south, or east, or west? Asked Perseus. I will tell you, said the tall lady. You must go first to the three gray sisters who live beyond the frozen sea in the far, far north. They have a secret which nobody knows, and you must force them to tell it to you. Ask them where you shall find the three maidens who guard the golden apples of the west, and when they have told you, turn about and go straight thither. The maidens will give you three things, without which you could never obtain the terrible head, and they will show you how to wing your way across the western ocean to the edge of the world, where lies the home of the Gorgons. Then the man took off his winged slippers and put them on the feet of Perseus, and the woman whispered to him to be off at once, and to fear nothing, but be bold and true. And Perseus realized that she was none other than Athena, queen of the air, and that her companion was Hermes, lord of the summer clouds. But before he could thank them for their kindness, they had vanished in the dusky twilight. Then he leaped into the air to try his new magic slippers. The Gray Sisters. Swifter than an eagle, Perseus flew up towards the sky. Then he turned, and the magic slippers bore him over the sea, straight towards the north. On and on he went, and soon the sea was passed, and he came to a famous land, where there were cities and towns and many people. Then he flew over a range of snowy mountains, beyond which were mighty forests, and a vast plain where many rivers wandered, seeking for the sea. And farther on was another range of mountains, and then there were frozen marshes and a wilderness of snow. And after all, the sea again, a sea of ice. On and on he winged his way, among toppling icebergs and over frozen billows, and through air which the sun never warmed. And at last he came to the cavern where the three gray sisters dwelt. These three creatures were so old that they had forgotten their own age, and no one could count the years which they have lived. The long hair which covered their heads had been gray since they were born, and they had among them only one single eye and a single tooth, which they passed back and forth from one to another. Perseus heard them mumbling and crooning in their dreary home, and he stood very still and listened. We know a secret which even the great folk who live on the mountain top can never learn, don't we, sisters? Said one. Ha ha, that we do, chattered the others. Give me the tooth, sister, that I may feel young and handsome again, said the one nearest to Perseus. And give me the eye, that I may look out and see what is going on in the busy world, said the sister who sat next to her. Oh, yes, 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 mumbled the third, as she took the tooth and the eye and reached them blindly towards the others. Then, quick as thought, Perseus leaped forward and snatched both of the precious things from her hand. Where is the tooth? Where is the eye? Screamed the two, reaching out their long arms and groping here and there. Have you dropped them, sister? Have you lost them? Perseus laughed as he stood in the door of their cavern and saw their distress and terror. I have your tooth and your eye, he said, and you shall never touch them again until you tell me your secret. Where are the maidens who keep the golden apples of the western land. Which way shall I go to find them?" "You are young, and we are old," said the Grey Sisters. "Pray, do not deal so cruelly with us. Pity us and give us our eye." Then they wept and pleaded and coaxed and threatened. But Perseus stood a little way off and taunted them, and they moaned and mumbled and shrieked as they found that their words did not move him. "Sisters, we must tell him," at last said one. "Ah, yes, we must tell him," said the others. "We must part with the secret to save our eye." Then they told him how he should go to reach the western land, and what road he should follow to find the maidens who kept the golden apples. When they had made everything plain to him, Perseus gave them back their eye and their tooth. "Ha ha," they laughed. "Now the golden days of youth have come again." And from that day to this, no man has ever seen the three Grey Sisters, nor does anyone know what became of them. But the winds still whistle through their cheerless cave, and the cold waves murmur on the shore of the wintry sea, and the ice mountains topple and crash, and no sound of living creature is heard in all of that desolate land. The Western Maidens. As for Perseus, he leapt again into the air, and the magic slippers bore him southward with the speed of the wind. Very soon he left the frozen sea behind him and came to a sunny land. There were green forests and flowery meadows and hills and valleys, and at last a pleasant garden where there were all kinds of blooms and fruits. He knew that this was the famous western land, for the Grey Sisters had told him what he would see here. So he alighted and walked among the trees until he came to the center of the garden. There he saw the three maidens of the west dancing around a tree. It was full of golden apples. They were singing as they danced, for the wonderful tree with its precious fruit belonged to Hera, the queen of earth and sky. It had been given to her as a wedding gift, and it was the duty of the maidens to care for it and see that no one touched the golden apples. Perseus stopped and listened to their poetry. "We sing of the old, we sing of the new. Our joys are many, our sorrows are few. Singing, dancing, all hearts entrancing. We wait to welcome the good and the true. The daylight is waning, the evening is here. The sun will soon set, the stars will appear. Singing, dancing, all hearts entrancing. We wait for the dawn of a glad new year. The tree shall wither, the apples shall fall. Sorrow shall come, and death shall call. Alarming, grieving, all hearts deceiving. But hope shall abide to comfort us all. Soon the tale shall be told, the song shall be sung. The bow shall be broken, the harp unstrung. Alarming, grieving, all hearts deceiving, till every joy to the winds shall be flung. But a new tree shall spring from the roots of the old, and many a blossom its leaves shall unfold, cheering, gladdening, with joy maddening, for its boughs shall be laden with apples of gold. Then Perseus went forward and spoke to the maidens. They stopped singing and stood still as if in alarm. But when they saw the magic slippers on his feet, they ran to him and welcomed him to the western land and to their garden. We knew that you were coming, they said, for the winds told us. But why do you come? Perseus told them all of what had happened to him since he was a child, and of his quest for Medusa's head. And he said that he had come to ask them to give him 3 things to help him in his fight with the Gorgons. The maidens answered that they would not give him 3 things, but 4. Then one of them gave him a sharp sword, which was crooked like a sickle. She fastened it to the belt at his waist. And another gave him a shield, which was brighter than any looking glass you ever saw. And the third gave him a magic pouch, which he hung by a long strap over his shoulder. These are the 3 things which you must have in order to obtain Medusa's head. But now here is a 4th, for without it your quest must be in vain. And they gave him a magic cap, the cap of darkness. And when they had put it upon his head, there was no creature of the earth or in the sky, no, not even the maidens themselves, that could see him. When at last he was arrayed to their liking, they told him where he would find the Gorgons, and what he should do to obtain the terrible head and escape alive. Then they kissed him and wished him good luck, and bade him to hasten to do the dangerous deed. And Perseus donned the cap of darkness and sped away towards the farthermost edge of the earth. And the 3 maidens went back to their tree to sing and to dance and to guard the golden apples until the old world should become young again. And this, my darling, ends our story time for today. As always, I hope that you have very sweet and creepy dreams. Good night.